Hey y'all, welcome back to Biz Vibe. I'm Mimi Camille. Today I'm talking through the long-awaited, at long last, 2023 Black Canyon 100K. I've taken about 2.5 months off of running in its entirety from pretty much everything. Have been processing through that race and am now here to finally talk through it. Before I get into the day itself, I think it's important to talk briefly about the training leading up to it and kind of the night before. The training leading up to it was as perfect as it could have been for my schedule and what I was able to accomplish. I was at the time coached by Hayden Hawks. He was helping me work through it. We had done a really good job of getting in all of my strength, all of my mobility, and then having a couple of days where I would either cross train, aqua jog, or take off in order to mitigate some of the problems I was having with my knees. I had previously run the Tucson 50K. It's a downhill pavement run, and I thought that would be the perfect stimulus to make sure my body was ready. That was in December. Everything went really well. I had a fun day, got first place, second overall, had a great time, was only off by about 6 minutes from my goal time, and I thought, great, we'll be ready to go for Black Canyon 100K. My body is really taking in my strength training and my mobility, and my knees seem to be super strong. They're able to handle this downhill. So Black Canyon 100K should be great. I thought I had done everything well, and then the day happened. But the night before even was one of the best lead-ups to a race. I did not feel nervous for the race. I had maybe a little bit of race nerves, but very minimal. I had worked really hard on my mental game and just not letting the race get to me, not letting the super deep and competitive women's field get to my head. I was just trying to play it cool. Play it cool, play it cool, everything's good, no pressure, it's gonna be a fun day. It can't get worse than 2021. That's just not how the day played out. Morning of hit. Those race nerves that I hadn't had for the week leading up hit like a tsunami. I usually have race nerves for a race, and I think that's a good thing. It means I care. It means I'm looking forward to it. It's usually just jittery race excitement. But this was unmatched. This was like no other race nerves I've ever felt. I just had this like pit in my stomach. I felt like I was gonna throw up all morning long. And there's usually like a hint of that in every one of my races. I mean, I'm a competitive person. To put this in perspective, I went go-kart racing with my friends from high school, and on the start line, like I had race nerves for that. A race that does not matter at all. I was able to get my breakfast down, and we were at an Airbnb with a couple other racers. The race nerves took a hold, and it was a really intense morning for me. I remember sitting in the car trying to stay warm before I headed to the start line and thinking, I never ever want to feel like this again. Right before I left the car in the warmth to head to the start line, I was trying some meditative breathing. One of my friends had sent me over this YouTube link. However, it did not work this morning. Nothing seemed to help. I ended up peeing in a bush and then had to wait in a really long porta potty line, which got me to the start line like just in the nick of time. I shed all of my warm-up gear and started the minute Jubilee said go. I barely had my shoes tied at that point. So it was a hectic morning, one I do not want to repeat, but that's how the race started for me. Right off the bat, even at the track, there was mud everywhere. Big mud pits, and not even a pit, just like pools of water as well. And so we got off the track as per usual. It was just an insane cliff. And then from the track, it shot us straight into this bottleneck. It's like a cattle gate where people were going through the barbed wire fence. It was a very interesting situation, and there was a lot of mud involved. It was really hectic and weird, and there were a lot of elbows, and yeah, like I said, people were going over the fence, under the fence, through the fence, barbed wire. I like weaseled my way through the gate. Once I made my way through that, I was able to set my own pace, and I'm pretty familiar with this race. I've done it the 100K once and the 60K once. I know the course well. I knew that it was going to go out fast, it always does, but I knew the pace I needed to hold. So I was looking to hold about a 7:30 pace from the start all the way to about Bumblebee. and I held that really well. I maintained pace, I stayed on course, and just kept passing people here and there. And I knew that I'd make my way up to hopefully that top 5 area. I crested Antelope Mesa, saw some friends up there, and that was fun, and then headed down into the canyon where you really start the downhill. Up until that point, I hadn't seen too many of my competitors. I knew they were way out in front, but I just enjoyed that part of the day. I love running downhill, and I was able to hold pace. I felt great, my energy was strong, and I was just stoked to finally be putting all of my training to the test. So about Hidden Treasure, I was able to start seeing some of my competition. Casey Littai was out in front of me. I could also see Sarah Beal and some of those ladies who I know were strong competition. I could see them on the horizon, and some of them were not looking as strong as they were when they first started, and I knew that was my race strategy, start picking them off. Even that early, I knew I'd be able to pick people off. Casey still looked super strong, but I passed her sometime within the Hidden Treasure to Bumblebee Exchange. Right past Hidden Treasure, I saw Bryce Brooks, who got this fun clip of me going through one of the only clips we have of the day out on trail, and I just kept moving through, and that's around where my knee started to give me trouble, where I knew like, oh shoot, it's starting to flare, whatever that means. I held pace and even pushed a little bit more because I knew if I was going to have the same year as 2021 that I'd need a fast start to be able to hold on to the end. So I ended up passing Casey Littai, I think Sarah Beal, and 1 or 2 other women that I thought were going to be strong competitors, and made it through Bumblebee right behind my best friend and training buddy Brianna Grigsby. We came in almost at the same time and had a good Bumblebee Ranch exchange, threw some ice down the hatch, down my sports bra, just to stay ahead of the heat in the day. When I made this exchange, I think it was evident that I wasn't super happy about how the day was going.
Is she okay?
I think her knee's hurting.
Yeah, she's
because my knee had continued to increase in pain level. The fun thing about Bumblebee was my mom was trying to come see this race. She had flown in the morning of. I think she had to leave around like 3 a.m. from her house in Houston. She caught a 5 a.m. flight, landed, and had to Uber to Bumblebee Ranch. She had her suitcase and ran probably a half mile down this dirt road trying to find my crew. Just a funny course of events. She ended up making it there probably a minute or 2 before I came to the aid station. She made it. It was great to see her and great to just have her there. So it was a good boost to get me on my way. I moved through Bumblebee and did not see Brianna after that, and Casey came back through and looked super strong and passed me. When I had passed her, she gave me just a good job and happy vibes, and I love that. So I tried to repay that and give her a great job and send her on her way, because I knew that around this point that it was going to be a long day if I continued on. Between Bumblebee and Gloriana Mine, I tried to maintain running through here, especially on the uphills. I was able to run. This is a pretty flowy section of the trail. It's one of my favorites, actually. I was hoping to hold around 8 to 9 minute pace here, and I was just unable to do that because of my knee. It started to really give me trouble, and so I was like, well, let's see what we can hold and see how far we can go. So this was kind of the section where I was run walking. Passing through Gloriana Mine and on through Soap Creek was very reminiscent of my 2021 Black Canyon 100K. My knee continued to give me more and more trouble, and by mile 20, I was up to a full walk. I had my bandana in as a leather strap to bite down on as far as pain goes. I really couldn't run much at all. It was more of a hobble when I could. And at this point, lots of people started passing me. My friend Georgia Porter, who we had trained with on the trail before, and Nicole, they both passed by and asked if I was okay. I just realized that it's just not my day today, and y'all have a great one. It's the beauty of trail and ultra running. Everybody's really kind. Then as I was on my climb towards Soap Creek, Mark DeFalco gave me a big fat hug, and I was just in tears because I knew the outcome of the day, what that was going to look like, because I had lived it before. At Soap Creek, I had to make the call if I was going to DNF or not, and by that point, I had sat with about 10 miles of what I had already raced before. The outcome of 2021 was me not racing for an entire year because of the choice I made to not DNF. I pushed through 30 miles of excruciating knee pain. Though I still placed in the top 10, I don't know if it was worth it to be out for an entire year. With that experience in the back of my head and the same day presenting itself, I made the call at Soap Creek to DNF. I made the call to DNF hoping and praying that by DNFing and not continuing on another 30 miles, maybe I'd be able to save my knee a little bit so I'd be able to race through the rest of the year. I've only had one other DNF. That was last year in Chamonix, France, which was also devastating. I do not take DNFs lightly. And that one was a bit different because my husband was there. We got in the car, they clipped my bib, and we were off. However, Soap Creek is not in the middle of nowhere, but it kind of is. It's not a cruise station. So I had the joy of sitting around with my bum knee and cheer all of my other friends who were back behind me and other friends who watch this YouTube channel or follow me on Instagram. And everybody came through and asked if I was okay, what was happening. So I had to explain what was happening probably about 10 to 15 times again and again. My knee was super swollen. Both of them were not doing well. I had ice on both of them. The aid station volunteers were on top of it, super amazing. But it was funny because it was like the aid station where people were really starting to feel the heat. Lottie Brinks came through. She had so much like salt and sweat on her. I was like, what can I do to help? Oh my gosh, you do not look like you're in good shape. How can I help? But I was also kind of immobile because I had two huge like ice things on my legs, sitting on the cooler propped up. So it was an interesting experience that I haven't had before and I hope to not have again. But it was also kind of the silver lining of being able to cheer a lot of other friends on as they came through, because I sat up there for probably another hour before they were able to get a ride for the accumulation of I think like 8 of us who had all DNF to take us back down to Black Canyon City. I did not have any cell service up there. I didn't have my phone yet either. And so I wasn't able to tell my crew what was happening. So when I showed up at Black Canyon City, I think they were a bit surprised that I hadn't run through it because they were expecting me to run through the chute. And I show up from behind. Surprise! The most notable thing here was just, I was the only female that had DNF'd up at that point with the group of probably, I think 5 to 8 guys. And the guys really just didn't think anything of their DNFs. And I think that rubbed off on me a little bit. It kind of reminded me that this is ultra running, this is supposed to be fun, and days like this happen. I shouldn't take it to heart. I think there's a beautiful balance there. I don't want to be DNFing left and right. But, you know, we have people like Jim Walmsley who have done that and have had great success in this sport, and like that's how he races. And that's a really cool thing, but for me, that's not how I want to race. But I did take some of that away from the guys. They were like, whatever, who cares? I'm over here like borderline about to cry because of the day I've had, and they're like, screw it, we'll get them next time. So it was nice to have a bunch of guys around me just like not caring at all that they DNF'd. We finally got the truck to take us back down to Black Canyon, and from there I reunited with my crew. My Jesus Vasilios was eagerly waiting, and unfortunately I tell him we're not going to be running the next portion. And that was pretty much my day. We finished it up going to the finish line and cheering in some of the leaders. But it was a very disappointing day for me on the whole. I think the thing I'm most pissed about is that I spent an entire day accumulating, sorting, getting my music ready for that second half of the race. And I never got to use my music, and I'm pissed. I think that was the biggest waste of time. Like training, not wasted. Mental endurance, not wasted. All that, not wasted. My entire day, I'm not kidding, like I think a full day of going through my music, wasted, out the door. I think on the whole, I'm disappointed in this race. That's all I can say about it. I'm not disappointed in the training though that led into the race. For me, I needed to step away from everything running. I don't know why, but that's what I felt like I needed. And so for those of you who have been following and are active subscribers, I really appreciate it. I appreciate your patience with me, but even looking through the little bit of footage we had still kind of makes me cry just because of the work and the effort and the soul I put into this race, only to have the exact same day I did in 2021. So I'm only now able to really look at that and move through it in a way that's like, yeah, oh well, it is what it is. I'm trying to work on not taking things too seriously and just not letting them have this much control over me, because I do care a lot. I think that's very evident. And I was really stoked to compete with such a competitive women's field. And just to be a part of that is really cool. And to dream that big is really fun. But the side effect of that is some major disappointment. If you are in a similar place or just feeling a little down about running and training, I made a video about how to process through a DNF. That'll be linked up here and down below. You're welcome to check that out. Once again, thank you all for just the encouragement you've always provided. I appreciate it. Y'all have a fabulous week. I hope you enjoyed this video and the fun tales that came from the day, whether or not I finished. Y'all have a great one and happy trails. Bye!